more. Good morning, Lagos, and thank you for joining us. You're listening to Smooth 98.1 FM Lagos, and this is Smooth Breakfast with Ayo.
I'm Valentine.
And it's time for us to go into detailed analysis of our newspaper stories. This morning, our first story is from The Guardian newspaper. But before going to that story, here's how you can connect with us.
You can send us a WhatsApp message on 0809 444 And you can also go on our Twitter page at Smooth981FM and use the hashtag freshly pressed 981. That's freshly pressed 981 to send in your messages, your comments on our news stories for this morning. For those who want to catch up later on YouTube, you can follow us at Smooth981FM Lagos so that you can watch a replay of today's edition.
That's right. And Lagos joining us for the analysis of these stories. This morning we have Uade. Uade is his handle is at Re-Inc Niger 2017. Good morning.
Good morning, Lagos.
Welcome, Wadi.
Thank you.
And we have Gbolahan at Mr. G Quest himself. Good morning.
Good morning, Valentine, and good morning, Lagos.
Good morning. Our first story is from Guardian newspaper. I'll come to you, Wadi, for this one. So we have not cancelled elections in any part of Nigeria, says INEC. So the Independent National Electoral Commission reacted yesterday, insisted that it has not cancelled elections anywhere in the country. The Professor Mahmoud Yakubu stated this during a media briefing at the International Conference Center in Abuja. He specifically stated, while responding to questions on the elections in certain flashpoints in Lagos, Imo, and Anambra states, there were instances of violence that were highlighted. But he says, in the regulations and guidelines of INEC, if certain instances of violence or malpractice is experienced in parts of the states, it does not warrant INEC to cancel elections in the states in total, but just in those flashpoints. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, that's actually the best thing to do. Most of the elections generally were free and quite fair. The way people went about their business was very impressive. So based on this, I don't think INEC should cancel the elections in any of the states. But the places where you had some issues or challenges with voters trying to express their voting right, I think they should look at ways if there is a need for them to carry out elections in those areas again.
Where voters are carrying out voting rights, I mean that's the normal thing to do. Except you mean you're referring to places where that was sabotaged.
Yeah, that's what I'm exactly.
Okay.
Where places where there were sabotage in terms of voting.
Okay.
Especially there were some areas that were on social media all through the weekend. Those kind of areas. If 90% of the people were not able to vote, then I think they should carry out elections there again.
There were allegations at some point, for especially areas of in Akwa Ibom State where one electoral officer was accused or alleged to have been induced with monetary inducement and threats really being leveled against them. And these are similar to some instances that we heard, like you referred to on social media.
Yeah. So the thing here is, are there evidence of all this? That's the very first thing people need to consider.
Right.
People throw around so many things. Oh, Mr. A bribed Mr. B. Some people have taken over the INEC offices. Are there evidences? Some of the places that we saw on Saturday where there were violence, people did actually show some video clips that at least give you some form of information about those things happening there.
Thank you, Wadi. I'll come to you, Gbolahan, for the next analysis to this story. Premium Times has this story. 2019 elections observers, CSO says process largely improved. Now, contrary to the last reports we heard, now certain election observers are commending INEC for a successful conduct of elections and saying it's even better than past administrations. What are your thoughts on this, Gbolahan?
Well, according to the civil society groups that we have here, there are 3 or 4 of them that have been reported here to have made comments. We have CLEAN, which is the Center for Law Enforcement and Education. There's another CSO as well too by the name TMG, which is Transition Monitoring Group. We also have the Election Observation Platform. You have another group which is called YAGI as well, which is Youth Initiative for Advocacy, Growth and Advancement.
Okay.
But largely, a lot of them have reported, or at least I'll go by CLEAN anyway. They said they observed or monitored the elections around the country, and this is according to the executive director, who is Benson Oluogo, who said that, of course, the election was adjudged to have been very peaceful. peaceful, and I mean the processes actually went on smoothly as well too. And according to his statement as well too, he said they had in 39% of the polling units they had 3 or 4 police officers present there. In 31% of the polling units, you had 2 officers there. 27% had 1 police officers there.
But what is said precisely, security personnel, so we're not sure if it's police officers or soldiers.
Yes, security personnel, as you said. So they were mixed security personnel, and so that has been reported to have been present there at the polling unit. So I mean, according to them, they've reported the elections to have gone on smoothly. And that's according to Clean. But then when you now read further down the line as well too, some observers, which is the Transition Monitoring Group and also the Election Observation Platform, reported some mild issues that were experienced. They were talking about late commencement of the election processes, contribute. There were so many other late arrival of election officials as well too, and the materials. And we also had the Yagi group as well too, who also mentioned that there were low voter turnouts as well. So right now at the moment there are 1 or 2 different views as to the way the elections has turned out. But with the question I would like to put to our listeners as well too is that how has the election turned out anyway? Has it been relatively peaceful in your area? What's been your experience? Because according to the first story that has been reported now, of course we've seen in social media where there has been flashpoint incidences of ballot snatching and incidences where ballot papers were burnt, and elections didn't take place in some certain areas. So if we're now going according to this CSO, sometimes we begin to question the legitimacies of these CSOs as well too.
Not necessarily CSOs, because that's just one out of a lot of other
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about
I
these particular ones anyway. You begin to question, because I mean it depends on the impression that we have. We were just talking downstairs as well too that right now, with the way we've seen the elections, in my own opinion anyway, would say 2015 has been a much better election than 2019. Of course, this story has been a tale of 2 cities anyway. In some areas, elections have gone on peacefully. I would say in my area, it has gone on peacefully. But as the INEC officials, did they actually turn up on time? In my polling unit anyway, some actually did turn up. They didn't turn up until 10 a.m.
And in most centers, we'll find reports of security personnel not even being present. At all.
Exactly. We saw video clips anyway of a particular area in Lagos where you had the security operatives. There was the only one.
Video clips with a pinch of salt.
No. This was mainstream media. This was mainstream media. This is not social media reporting.
Here's why, Gbolahan. Because until you have proof, verified proof that those videos with the timeline and everything occurred at the exact time, is me playing devil's advocate and being politically correct.
Well,
we need to just be very sure.
You have to be cautious. But we're talking about mainstream media now. I'm not talking social media reporting now.
Yeah, still. I mean, like you said, varied reports. Some say, yes, it was very good. Like one of the groups said the security personnel arrived at 7 a.m. Some other people say, no, they didn't arrive at all until 12.
Yes.
And some others say, oh, there was
no security operatives.
So, yes. I mean, it's just different reports, contradictory reports here and there. But we'll move on to the next story. From Vanguard newspaper, we have this one. Military personnel abandon responsibilities, display partisanship. It's all about the elections. Another observer group, one of the election observer groups, the Center for Transparency Advocacy, CTA, said they accused the military personnel deployed for security of not only abandoning their primary responsibilities, but also displaying open partisanship during the exercise. They gave an instance in Rivers, Bayelsa, and Yobe states where security personnel was accused or were accused of blocking citizens of going to vote. But your thoughts, Wade?
If this is true, it's quite disheartening. Why? Because the expectations of the security operatives is to protect the lives and properties of those who are coming to vote. So if this is actually true, then there's so much that we need to question about the way security was handled. And like Gbolahan said earlier, some places security operatives were there on time, some didn't come, some came in late. However, based on what the observer said, I'm quoting from what the lady said. She said the conduct of the men of the armed forces deployed to flashpoints to ensure the security of lives and properties leaves much to be desired, which is exactly my point. If
Yeah,
this is true,
You're referring to the executive director of the group,
yes,
Faith
Faith,
Madishi.
yes.
Mhm.
So it says in many instances, men of armed forces left their primary responsibilities and became partisan in the electoral process. Like I said, if this is true, the role of the security operative is to protect the lives and properties of the people who come out to exercise their civic duties.
Let me ask you a direct question. How much premium do you think INEC placed on security in this election? Because I was speaking to somebody before we came upstairs for the show. I was speaking to one of the volunteers for this election, and she had the responsibility of organizing voters to come in and drop their votes in the ballot boxes. And she said precisely, one, the security personnel did not arrive until 12, and it just one personnel. And she also said that they were given the sole responsibility of transporting these ballot boxes without any escort.
Well, it's quite amazing because I watched the INEC chairman speak on Friday
Yeah.
when he gave his news conference, and I also listened to the acting inspector general of police, who said that a minimum of 3 security operatives will be available at each
For
polling,
each center.
for each center. So it is quite surprising. I hear this every day. That is, none came, one person came. So for me, INEC had done its work by working with the security teams. However, did the security operatives, did they actually calculate their logistics and the things that were required to ensure that those things were put in place?
So is it a question of incentives that were not or were given to them, or?
Well, it's hard to say. First and foremost, when you talk about incentives, their role and their responsibility is to be there to provide security.
Yes. Thank you very much. We have messages here on WhatsApp.
All right, Sonny Mike says, from the experience of last Saturday, it's now clear that there was no security of lives as promised by the government and security agencies. Also, we know the party that have thugs that were snatching ballot boxes with no resistance from security agencies.
Ayinka here says, I want to believe that with the violence recorded in some places, this will be enough for INEC to understand that not everyone should have to get to the polling booths to vote or stand 3 hours to cast a vote. INEC must leverage on IT to make things seamless. The BVN, he says, and national ID card numbers remain viable options for future elections. Even SMS or posting votes must be looked into. At least we'll have less people to worry about their security at the booths. INEC claimed 84 million Nigerians are clear to vote. And then so one of the telecoms has 60 million subscribers. If you know, you know. It's just taking advantage of technology to ramp up our results. But let's move on to this day newspaper for this next story. Stock market declines and profits taken. Gbolahan on elections. They said they blame it on elections delay. Still casting our minds back to the experience of the postponement of the elections until it happened last Saturday. We see results coming from investor apathy, drawn from prolonged, time of elections actually happening. They said, according to this analysis from one Mrs. Tony Sani and the group chief executive officer of one of the groups or one of the investment companies, they said, in investments, the longer the waiting time for any outcome, the higher the perception of risks. And I would mention as well the occurrence on Friday evening where we found out people were alarmed by the Google results that were showing exchange rates $1 to $1 to 184 naira. So a lot of other speculations and suspicion. How do you see this playing out?
Well, if I make a quick comment anyway about the 184 naira to the dollar,
which was completely false
on Google, of course. I mean, anybody would know that was just a mere technical glitch. Anyway, there was no way you would actually have that happening, where your exchange rates would just suddenly just crash overnight. It never happens anyway.
We're reflecting back on the stock
market.
But
going back on the stock markets anyway, when we talk about the stock market, at this same point last week, Monday, we were actually talking about the impact of the postponement of the elections.
Yes.
And just as I said last week, Monday as well, that the market was going to react negatively to it, you would obviously find out that a lot of investors will be sitting on the sidelines, not investing their money, because capital is a coward, as they always say. That's a common saying anyway. And money would always go to where it's wanted and where it's safe. If I'm not sure of my returns anyway, I wouldn't put my money there. And what the signal that we did send by postponing the elections last week was that we were not organized. And I mean, investors need certainties. Investors need to know that if I put my money in here and I've calculated that I'll get 10% or whatever, that's what I
Yes.
will get. I mean, so this is very simple anyway. It's logical. It's expected as well too. And the report actually stated as well too that prior to this, anyway, in February, the market had gained about 6.6%,
Mhm.
but that was in the first 2 weeks of the month or
Yes,
so.
yeah.
But that week, of course, it was negative at the end of the week or so. And it's to be expected. But right now, at the moment as well, too, we're still in limbo as at now as well, too, because no one knows where this election is going to go. So for this week as well, too, we will still continue to see investors sitting on the sidelines waiting to see where this would go. Because of course, what you don't want as well too is people questioning the validity or the legitimacy of this election that has just been conducted. So we beg INEC, they need to start counting the votes, and the collation center needs to open as early as possible.
Thank you.
Well, the earliest is 11 a.m. this morning, so no matter how much you beg, that's what they're going to do.
As long as there's no postponement of that.
All right, okay, well, very well said. All right, moving on to our other stories. Shall we take one or two messages before we
Go into
on
this
to
one.
get to the other story?
Obama Chido has sent this one. It says, "Good morning. Please, why are we not talking about the bullying man? That story is
Don't
coming.
worry,
All
we're
right?
coming,
It's here."
Boomer.
Oda says, "I only wish the same venom with which people debate over PDP and APC on social media translates into asking for good governance." Did you see the comments towing ethnic hate lines in areas like Volta and Agor as a result of the violence there?
Terrible.
Very sad. And then we have this one, Benga Akamu sent in this one. It says, "I think it's important that INEC starts releasing results as soon as possible. So many fake results already trending. Better to set the record straight. And we'll always advise people, even while, as we did last week, ignore every single result that you see, even from the candidates themselves,
Yes.
until INEC
Even
releases."
with pictures, it's
Mhm.
very important. We must, be law-abiding citizens. It's said that INEC is the only body and agent
That's right.
allowed to post results. So we're waiting patiently. 11 a.m. will come very shortly, and we will be hearing, hopefully, official results from INEC themselves. Moving away from that, now still on security matters, and this is a report from the police who have said that they've arrested 128 as at Saturday for alleged electoral offences. This is from the Premium Times. Now, this was a statement by the spokesman actually yesterday in Abuja, and said the offences range from homicide-related crimes, vote trading, ballot box snatching, amongst others. Gbolahan, what's your take on this one?
Well, I give the security operatives, the police, the credit, at least for arresting these 128 people who have been caught for perpetrating electoral offences. A lot of credit goes out to them, and I would expect that they should do more as well too in bringing these people to book as well too, and doing the investigation that is required. I mean,
I was going to ask about 128. Is
yes.
that not a bit modest
Well,
number?
I was going there as well too, because when we're talking about 128, and with what we've seen as well too on social media, and what we've heard as well too, that there's been a lot of election cancellations in places like Okota, in places like Isolo in Lagos alone as well too, and some other areas as well across the country as well. You'll be thinking that we should have a lot more than 128, but then that speaks to the level of preparedness of the police officers. It speaks to also the structure that we also do have in place as well too. Because when we're talking about places where all these electoral malpractices did go on, how long did it take the police operatives to mobilize their officers to get down to the unit as well? To what's the time frame? Because according to some reports as well, to there are some places where the police stations were not even more than 2 or 3 minutes away. And meanwhile, people were perpetrating crimes, and they spent minutes perpetrating such offenses at the center as well. So it talks a lot about our superiority as well, to how prepared are they for incidences as this as well. And it also speaks to our culture as well too, of electoral violence. This is not the first time that Nigeria is experiencing this. We've been experiencing it, but what are we doing to stem the tide as well of electoral violence that we have going on in the country? We need to address this culture. It cannot go on forever.
But we must commend the Nigerian police force for the arrest made.
Of course,
yes.
Right.
Which
Now,
I did.
thank you very much for that. It's important to understand that there are many multi-agent
Participation.
approach here
Yes.
to security for this election. So we had not just the police, but other security agencies.
Mm.
But the police provided 83% of security personnel and were monitored by the Police Service Commission. So they had actually said that if you had any reports, they put up numbers, and if police were not taking action in your polling centers, you could call any of these numbers. You can follow them at Police Service C2 on Twitter to get the numbers for all the stations in Lagos and all the other states of the federation.
Justice must prevail at the end of it.
Absolutely.
Anyway. Bring them to bear.
All right, Wade, Falana here wants INEC to take over electoral offenders prosecution. Now that's a follow-up to the story we're talking about. So after they've been arrested, what happens next? The police prosecutes them. Now, human rights lawyer Mr. Falana Ese is saying actually the police shouldn't be the ones prosecuting. It should be left to INEC so it can be independently done. What's your take on this?
Well, first and foremost, the police. First and foremost, the police are the ones who have arrested these people. However, they should work in conjunction with INEC, because INEC is the body who they have arrested these people on their behalf. What Falana is saying is that many a times when the police goes ahead to prosecute, most times it goes through the state attorney general, whereby pressures from external pressures might make them not go further in terms of prosecution. And I do agree with him. INEC should be at the forefront of this. The legal team should work with their litigation departments and other litigation lawyers to put this in place, and not just leave it to the sole perspective of the state.
So what's really going wrong here? Because in Section 150 of the Electoral Act, in this report, 2010, it states, and I quote, which has vested INEC with the power to prosecute any person who violates the provisions of the Electoral Act. So why is the police then coming to, take on this role?
Well, the police are the arresting body, but they should work with INEC. So my belief will be that INEC's legal team would have the people who will work with the police to ensure that they follow the act and is not handed over to the state. That's generally what should be.
All right. Okay, well, we will keep an eye on this one, because again, in the report, Femi Falana also mentioned the fact that they hadn't set up an election tribunal, which had been called for again and again, and it's a deterrent to having, justice served.
Well, why are the courts there? Why do we have to set up a commission or a tribunal for every single thing that happens like
the
that?
process.
But the courts are there, so the special cases should be treated specially by the courts.
I think I agree with having a special court for this anyway, because when we know the judiciary that we have as well, they're clogged up. There's a lot of backlog as well too. So in order to expedite this anyway, you need a special court to
that's taxpayers' money going into
That's
that
true.
again.
And
So
also,
that's a waste.
I will take it as a waste. And also, members of this same judiciary are going to be the people who will sit on these commissions.
Do you have any court proceedings as well? I'll tell you, I have 2 court proceedings currently going on, and they've been lingering on for at least 3 years now. And you have postponement, adjournment every time you go to court.
I see your point.
You would never get justice
I
at
see
the
your
rate
point,
at which
but
you're going.
that's still another avenue for money to just go down.
Now, you call it waste, but some people would say it's judicial spending of our money, because at the end of the day, if justice is going to be served, and also as a deterrent to potential, election offenders, it probably should be, and it's part of the provisions of that of the section.
Simon,
right, we'll go to the comments.
Twitter, Simon Wada sent in this one. It says, the longer it takes INEC to declare Nigeria decides 2019 as the results, the more the economy suffers. And that's speaking to the stock market deeply based on uncertainties.
All right, moving away from that, we're still talking about money here. Vanguard newspaper has the story, rule on share transmission to reduce 100 billion naira unclaimed dividend. Now, last week we shared about the new adjustments that the Security and Exchange Commission had brought in, and part of it is that they would further reduce the incidence of unclaimed dividends currently put at over 100 billion naira in the market. Wade?
This is extremely good news. Reading through it, I see they've taken all the necessary steps to work with all the bodies, the probate council. They would start to talk to them about how to work and make this these things faster and better, to issue letters of administrations to ensure that wills have been properly put in place and have been executed accordingly. So for me, I think this is one of the best things that is going to happen. And as we go on, like we've seen with unclaimed dividends having gone down with the e-share situation, it makes Nigeria, it makes me happy. So people who lose their loved ones who have shares, they can easily get access to those things and start to earn the monies from those dividends as they go on. So this is extremely good news for Nigeria.
Brilliant, thank you. Now, some people have been hesitant about investing in stocks, as in the past it was quite a tedious process to transfer your shares, either when you're dead or just to transfer by choice. Now, the report says that the transition of shares from one investor to another and claiming of investment of a deceased investor by the family members is made easier. The process is made easier, and SE, Security and Exchange Commission have made this so in the recently released bulletin.
All right. More messages here. Gloria says, election was cool in my area. We had small chops, rice,
Well done.
rice, and celebrities were volunteers. We had security personnel and largely officers were on time. She continues to say, for zones where officials did not come early, they gave those same hours to people to make up for their time, and that is true. Chika Agina from Marina says, the Saturday election, in my opinion, is the worst I've experienced. I voted in the polling unit 24 in Aguda, and it was an open intimidation by thugs loyal to a ruling party, treating the non-indigents to either vote for the party or go home, as if that is, if they want to vote for the other party, they
That's
should
really sad.
go to the east. Very funny, very interesting. Let's move on.
All right, move on to our final story here, and then we'll take your comments. Tinubu, this Bodilon Bullion Van story that I think was the Goma who asked on WhatsApp. Tinubu speaks on Bodilon Bullion Van videos rigging plan. This is from The Guardian. I'm sure a number of us have seen that video and would like to play, or the sound I would read and then would play that for you in a short while. Now, national leader of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, has denied alleged plans to rig the 2019 general elections by mobilizing both money and electoral materials from a house at Bodilon apartment in Ikoyi, Lagos. So this is how it played out. There was a footage, I don't know if it was, I think it was anonymous. Someone put up a footage of at least I saw 2 bullion vans driving out of his premise. Bodilon into the premise, sorry.
Yes.
Driving into the premise, and it's not just about money, because usually when you hear bullion van, you hear money. People were also concerned about sensitive election materials also being in those vehicles. But when he was asked the question, he denied, and he said it is money. He hasn't collected, saying contract. Let's hear him speak himself. Asiwaju Bola Tinubu.
I don't follow people. Since my money or government money, I don't work for government. I'm not in agency of government. And let anybody come out to say I've taken any contract from the government of President Muhammad Buhari, APC, in the last 5 years. They should prove it. I'm on my own, and I'm committed to my party. So even if I have money to spend in my premises, what's your headache? If I don't represent any agency of government, and I have money to spend, if I have money,
all right, mics are up.
I give it to the people.
Who is watching his house? Gbolahan, who is watching his house?
Well, I mean, he doesn't live on an island. He lives in the midst of neighbors in Bodilon, and he's a high-profile person.
Yes.
Obviously, and even if he isn't a high-profile person, if you saw those clips, you would notice that there was a mob of people waiting out there. And if I was his next-door neighbor, I'll be worried for my life as well when I see a mob of people just standing out there.
Why?
So it's
He doesn't have enough security to guard you.
Well, I don't have enough security, unfortunately.
I mean, let's talk about his response, actually.
When I look at it, anyway,
thing.
I'll go straight to the caveats there. At the end of the day, he said, if I have money, I'll give it out to whomever I like, to the people free of charge. Then a caveat came in afterwards and said, as long as it's not to buy votes. I mean, that's just a little caveat to cover up at the end of the day. When we're talking about...
How is it a cover up?
Well,
it's his money.
Yes.
So if you have a particular amount of money, you're going
Yes.
to do normal transactions at the bank.
Yes.
If you don't feel safe
Yes.
to carry that money yourself in your own car,
Yes.
you can request for the bank at an extra charge to get your bureauman to escort you.
Wait. There's no problem. If you have all the money in the world to spend and you want the money in cash, there's no law that stipulates that yes, you cannot request for a bullion van to deliver your money.
Okay.
Absolutely legitimate.
Right.
But then when you're looking at the situation and you're looking at it in context, there are people standing outside, several people waiting outside on the eve of an election.
Is the
And
national
hold on.
leader of APC?
Is the national
Is it not
leader?
expected at the time of the election for people to gather around?
Well,
I'm just asking.
People
wait.
gather around and he has a lot of money. I'm just asking as well that, with regards to having money, particularly when your party has come under a lot of scrutiny, is even if it was for innocent reasons, is that a wise time to do such a thing?
Absolutely. And when you're talking about the chairman of a party as well, too, is he the only party chairman? We have Uche Secondist as well, too. And where I would like to go to is that when we're talking about 2 billion vans as well, too, we're saying if we have to, it's possible that it's obvious that one of it is loaded with something, and then you need a little bit more room as well to carry it.
You do not know.
It's
Except
not
you're
possible.
Except you're flying those billion
No,
ones, there's
hold
no way for
on.
you to assume.
Logic states that it's not possible that for you to have half.
Logic and money
Wait,
don't work hand in glove.
Valentine. I know you're trying to play it safe here
Yeah,
as well
and at
too.
the same
But
time,
logic is if you're driving,
But I have to
if
be
you're
the
driving
umpire
2
here.
cars,
Time is fast
if
spent.
you're
Maybe we
driving
should go
2
to
cars,
the comments and see what people have to say about the
Yes.
story. Unfortunately, I have to cut you there.
Well, Justin
Thank
is
you.
just sent in a message here on WhatsApp. It says, Valentine, there are anti-money laundering laws, he says.
tell me about it.
There are limits to cash transactions in the country. It is a crime. Oh, he
We're
says,
talking about
Justin.
cashless policy.
Very interested. Ubomachidoze here says, well, we're a bunch of hypocrites, so the citizens' money in their accounts is stolen, while Tinubu can carry money and it's his money. Anyway, Lagos, we'll come back in 14 minutes to talk sports inside the locker room. Special thanks to our analysts in here for Freshly Pressed 91 today. Gbolahan is at Mr. G Quest, and of course, Re-Ink Niger 2017. Uade, thank you for coming in this morning. Lagos, this is Smooth 98.1.